What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Fire Sports Takes podcast. Happy Hot Take Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen. And I do have some pretty good hot takes. Pretty good hot takes at the end of the episode. A lot to get into today. We're going to talk some college football playoff because I'm pretty sure they drop it on Tuesdays. You're going to be listening to this, obviously, on a Tuesday. If you're not and it already came out, I'm sure it's going to cause a lot of debate. I have opinions about it. I really do have opinions about it. I think I have a different viewpoint on it because I'm not like a college football truther. Like I didn't grow up a big college football fan. I'm from the Northeast, so it's not as rich there. Not rich in terms of money, but it's like not as college football environment, atmosphere, tradition rich as it is in obviously the South or the Midwest. But I do have, so I think I have a different perspective, an outside perspective from as like a guy in the Northeast who didn't watch a lot of college football growing up because I was doing stuff on Saturdays. Strictly NFL Sundays were my football fixing, obviously within reason. So I do think I have an interesting perspective on it because there's a lot of traditions that old college football heads just won't let go. Like I think we could let a 3-win team into the playoffs. I do. We will talk about that 3-win team later on in the episode, so make sure you stay tuned. Let's start with a little bit of Monday Night Football, and I was going live earlier today, and I'm like, this is bullshit. This is really bullshit. I think the two best teams in the AFC right now, like which two teams I'd pick to come out of the AFC? I guess there's three in here. The Patriots are one of them. They have to be at this point. I understand they don't play anybody. That's like the main knock on the Patriots. They don't play anybody, but the teams that they do play, they just beat the brakes off of. They just beat the brakes off of. They just absolutely blow out the bad teams on their schedule. They beat the Giants by double digits. They beat the Jets by double digits in back-to-back weeks. They took care of the good teams on their schedule. They beat the Bills in Buffalo. I can't think of the Bills stadium now. What the fuck's wrong with you? Oh boy. Gotta lock it. But they beat the Bills in Buffalo. They beat the Bucks. They beat the brakes off the Panthers, who are a very frisky team. They beat the Falcons by one. Quiet second half from Drake May and the offense in that game. Some costly turnovers from Drake May as well. But the Falcons aren't a very good team. They beat the brakes off of the Browns. And the more I sit here and think about it, my biggest knock on this Patriots team is their offensive line, right? And that was a game where they did have Will Campbell. Obviously, Myles Garrett body bagged him. Myles Garrett did not have any type of success against the Jets' young rookie tackles or rookie and second year tackles the way that he did against the Patriots. That's neither here nor there, though. But Drake May got sacked 5 times by Myles Garrett. They were getting pressure. Patriots still dropped 32. Drake May had 3 touchdowns and 280 through the air. So even though they've played teams that have gotten pressure, Drake May has still been able to produce, albeit the Browns' defense, although it's great, defensive line is not as good as the Broncos, and their defense as a whole is not as good as the Texans. So I think if the Patriots match up with them, with one of those teams, I think they can get bounced. But then again, the Texans, as of right now, aren't currently in the playoff picture. I think that will change. They play the Colts one more time. I don't know who's on the Jaguars schedule the rest of the way, but I think the Texans will end up winning that division, like I predicted earlier this year. Like I predicted when they were 0-3. I wasn't done with that Texans team at all either. The Colts schedule the rest of the way, I'm pretty sure, is harder than the Texans because the Texans have played 10 teams as of right now. If the playoffs started today, 10 of the games the Texans have played have been against playoff teams. Unbelievable. They played an absolute gauntlet. And unlike the Patriots, unlike the Broncos, unlike the Jaguars, where 2 of those teams are on third-place schedules, the Patriots on a fourth-place schedule, the Texans are on a first-place schedule. We will get into them later on in this episode as well. But as far as the Patriots are concerned, they just beat the brakes off of bad teams. Since Christian Gonzalez has come back for the New England Patriots, he started off the year on the IR, on the PUP. He wasn't playing. He came back against the Panthers in Week 4. The Patriots have allowed more than 20 points just 2 times since getting Christian Gonzalez back. Drake May, obviously, probably the MVP frontrunner right now. I can't muster up the courage. I can't swallow my pride enough to physically admit that without throwing up in my mouth. So Matthew Stafford is still my MVP, but I can obviously see a case why Drake May would be the MVP frontrunner. So the Patriots are just a good team, man. I think it's them or the Texans right now. Those are the 2 teams I have the most confidence in the AFC playoffs. And I understand Josh Allen is a different type of beast in the playoffs, so I do have a little bit a confidence in the Bills, but I just think the rest of the Bills roster doesn't compare to this Patriots roster, and especially doesn't compare to this Houston Texans roster. And as far as the Broncos are concerned, I just can't. I don't know if I can trust Bo Nix the way I can trust C.J. Stroud, Josh Allen, or Drake May in the playoffs. The Patriots are really good. The Boston fans don't deserve this. I got banned on TikTok Live because I was just ripping on Boston. So there are a few things that we need to establish here. If you are a Boston fan listening to this, never forget that Tom Brady is a bad father. Self-proclaimed, his words, not mine. His words, not mine. I would never do that. I would never call somebody a bad father. Those were Tom Brady's words, not mine. Keep in mind that Jason Tatum in the fourth quarter in back-to-back games, games 1 and 2 against the New York Knicks, when the Boston Celtics had a 20-point lead and the Celtics watched the Knicks in Boston just absolutely eviscerate those Celtics 20-point leads in games 1 and 2 of the Eastern Conference semifinals. Jason Tatum in the fourth quarter in games 1 and 2 combined had just 1 field goal made. Keep that in mind. The most overrated player in basketball, afraid of the big shot, and the corniest athlete in the NFL. Also keep in mind, Tom Brady, horrible financial advice, cost a bunch of guys millions, including himself, with that cryptocurrency scam company that he tried to build back in 2021 or whenever it was. Also keep in mind, Tom Brady, kind of a cuckold. His wife cheated on him with her jiu-jitsu instructor. These are the facts. This is not opinion-based. These are the facts. Tom Brady, more Botox in his face than Kim Kardashian. These are the facts. Tom Brady clones his dog. Kind of weird. These are the facts. Tom Brady never won a Super Bowl without a top 10 defense. These are the facts. Tom Brady can't make throws, can only dream of making the throws Patrick Mahomes can make. These are only the facts. Drake May's wife, I would never say this, but there was some guy in my chat today that said she was ugly. Again, I would never say this. I would never say that. You don't talk about a man's family, but somebody in my chat did say, shout out Zach Swain, he did say that Drake May's wife is ugly. Keep that in mind as well. What else about Boston? Fenway Park, absolute dump, absolute shithole. 2012 AFC divisional round, Mark Sanchez marched into Gillette, beat the fuck out of Tom Brady and the Bill Belichick Patriots. The last game Bill Belichick ever coached for the New England Patriots was a loss to the New York Jets. I think that's enough Boston slander for now. Just got to tear them down a little bit. So if you are a Boston sports fan listening to this, I just keep all those things in mind. Those were facts. Those were facts. Everything I just said, that was not subjective. Those are objective truths. Drake May's good at football, though. So congratulations. Obviously, I'm coping, if you couldn't tell, with the fact that the Jets haven't had a franchise quarterback since the late 60s and early 70s. The Patriots had the biggest dynasty maybe in the history of sports in the modern era with the greatest quarterback of all time for now. And then they take a 3-year hiatus, 4-year hiatus, and all of a sudden it looks like they have an MVP. They have an MVP frontrunner. So yes, I'm coping. And Mike Vrabel, who interviewed with the Jets just as a leverage move to get signed by the Patriots to be their head coach. They're 10-2. Yes, I'm coping. You don't have to oh, wow, this guy sounds bitter. You would be correct. You would be 100% correct. But everything I just said, those were objective facts. Those were truths. Except Tom Brady has more Botox than Kim Kardashian. That might not be the truth. And I was going live on TikTok just saying all of those facts. And these Boston fans are such little, not gonna get too rude, but they're such little wussies, such little girls, that they had to report my live for bullying. And I had 100 people in the live. All of a sudden, I'm restricted for 10 minutes. Boston fans, surprise, surprise. Also, they're racist. Allegedly. Not me saying that. NBA players said that. That's not me saying that. That's NBA players. Also, talking about trash fan bases, trash sports towns. I have some Eagles friends that listen to the podcast. Ian, if you're listening, John Schmidt, if you're listening, you guys are some of the good ones. But why are we throwing eggs at Kevin Patullo's house? I also had a recent discovery. Here, let me pull it up. The city of Philadelphia has a real illiteracy problem. That is a truth. I'm not making that up. Let me pull this up really quick. So you see a lot of Eagles fans just have asinine, ridiculous, garbage takes nonstop. I'm talking about real talk with MJ. That guy, W Rage Baiter, good at what he does because he gets me going because he's just an absolute idiot. But it's not just him. I spent all summer debating with Eagles fans online. Hear this. Philadelphia has significant literacy challenges, with studies showing about 52% of adults are functionally illiterate and 67% are low literate reading at 6th to 8th grade levels. The issues are linked to high poverty rates, and the city is experiencing a literacy crisis with efforts underway to improve the situation through programs like blah, 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 blah. Basically, Philly is filled with either A, heroin addicts, or B, adults that can't read. At least 52% of them. 67% reading at a 6th to 8th grade level. No wonder their takes are dog shit. No wonder. That makes so much sense. But yes, all in all, the Patriots are very good. I think they're a top 2 team in the AFC currently. I'm a big fan of Houston, and we'll get into them later. Some other stuff, some other talking points we could probably get into. Shedeur Sanders is the lowest graded quarterback per PFF. I don't think Shedeur has been horrible. I think he's looked like a 5th-round pick, but the Shedeur fanboys will talk about him like he's been the next Tom Brady, which is ridiculous. The Shedeur Sanders fanboys are unbelievable. I'm going to sound like a hater, but I just say what I see. He hasn't really looked impressive besides that one throw on the run to Isaiah Bond. That was a nice throw, but other than that, he has not looked impressive in the slightest. Lowest passer rating in the NFL at 52, 50.8 completion percentage, 405 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 6 sacks in 2 starts. And all the excuses are being made about Shedeur. Well, he didn't have time to practice. That's what a backup quarterback does. They don't practice with the ones. What are we talking about here? He had a full week of practice. He had 2 full weeks of practice, comes out against San Francisco, who I thought was a good matchup for Shedeur because they have one of the worst pressure rates in football, and Shedeur lays an absolute egg. Granted, he didn't fumble the punt return or the kick return, whatever it was. He didn't. He did have a nice little touchdown there to Harold Fannin, but then you go on Twitter and you see these Shedeur fanboys talking about it like Shedeur Sanders makes nice tight window throw to Harold Fannin. There wasn't a player within 5 yards. Then you have that 4th and 20 where the dude, I don't even know what's going through his head. He just isn't. He's overthrowing Jerry Jeudy, and then you have Shedeur Sanders Glazers talking about Jerry Jeudy like he slowed up on the route. Not really. Shedeur Sanders just airmailed him, and that was the big plus side for Shedeur Sanders was his accuracy. Shedeur Sanders was an average college quarterback in the Big 12. He wasn't great. I never saw it. I'm not trying to be a hater. I hope it works out for him because I'm a Cam Ward guy. Him and Cam Ward are buddies, so I want Cam Ward to be happy. Shedeur Sanders being good would be great, would be awesome for the league, but I'm not going to delude myself into thinking that this guy has been unbelievable or he was unbelievable in college. He never belonged in the first 2 rounds. Never. That's a reason he didn't. And then he talked about himself like he should be going number 1 overall. So that obviously doesn't help either. And there's obviously a circus that comes with him, which probably caused his stock to fall a little bit. I don't think he was a 5th round. Like, Dillon Gabriel going over him is crazy. But still, like, I never saw it with Shedeur. People are going to call me a hater. That's fine. I want him to do good. He'd be good for the league. He's fun. I think he gets a lot of flack in the media, even though he obviously is arrogant and he's thrown his players under the bus before at Colorado. He's like, yeah, how many times did Raiola get sacked? Whatever. I want Shedeur to succeed because it'll be fun for the NFL. It would be better with the Sanders being good at football. He has not looked good at all, at all. And that makes me sound like a hater for just pointing out what I see. And a hater and a racist. A hater and a racist. That's what I am for saying Shedeur Sanders isn't good at football. A hater and a racist. Hear me talk about Garrett Wilson and call me a racist. It's unbelievable. They want me to just talk about, like, you can't talk shit on an African-American athlete without being labeled a racist in 2025. That's unbelievable. You know who fucking sucks? You know who sucks? Riley Moss. That guy stinks. You know who's overrated? Cooper DeJean. That guy stinks. You know who's the most overrated quarterback in NFL history? Tom Brady. I can't say that with a straight face. But I fucking hate that guy. I hate that guy. Like, it's just, You can't rip on Shedeur Sanders without being called a racist. It's ridiculous. Same thing with Angel Reese. Who, listen, I'm an Angel Reese stan. I believe in Angel Reese for many reasons. Many reasons. I think that Angel Reese has a lot of tools to be a great rebounder, including the way she is built, her ability to box out is next level. I appreciate Angel Reese's commitment to boxing out on the offensive and defensive glass. She's built for it. Let's just say that. Very strong lower body, a lot of explosion coming out of the bottom half of Angel Reese. I think she is one of the most overhated players in the NBA. But call me a racist because I say Shedeur Sanders sucks. I'm just saying there's problems. Big Angel Reese stan, Caitlin Clark fucking clears. Like, what are we talking about? Paige Beckers might clear Caitlin Clark. WNBA talk, not sexist either. W Fire Sports takes. But yeah, the Shedeur Sanders Glazers on the internet really piss me off, and it's gotten to a point where I can't tell if they're rage baiting me or if they're actually just stupid. And I think it's a little bit of both. And I'm telling the rage baiters are working. Like, you want engagement on Twitter? Just say Shedeur Sanders makes incredible tight window throw to Harold Fannin when there's nobody around him. You want engagement on Twitter? Say Jerry Jeudy deserves to be incarcerated for yelling at my sweet baby Shedeur Sanders, which is literally a take I saw today. So it's ridiculous. Shedeur Sanders, lowest graded QB per PFF. That's some hater shit because Brosmer and JJ McCarthy have been miles worse than Shedeur Sanders. Miles. So at least he's not really turning the ball over at the rate. I don't know. How is Brosmer not the worst graded QB? PFF just wanted the attention grab. That's all that was. Lowest graded QB, Shedeur Sanders. That's ridiculous. All right, some other brief stories here. The word hoe has made an incredible resurgence. Not only in the Lane Kiffin world, who that guy has become famous. It's like college football, this league, reality TV, going up to that reporter, calling, "You gonna call me a hoe?" The reporter did not call him a hoe. He said it's hard to make a hoe a housewife. So, like, he kind of did, but I absolutely see where he's going. I'm not totally familiar with Lane Kiffin's lore and Lane Kiffin's history, but this guy's been passed around. Not going to say that. Not going to say that. That's unfair to my ex-girlfriend to say that. That's unfair. That is... Pause. That's unfair. Let's rein it in here. But the word hoe making an absolute comeback. Lane Kiffin is a hoe, objectively. That kid kind of looked like a bitch when Lane Kiffin pressed him, though. He should have stood on business. He should have been like, yeah, you're a hoe. Lane Kiffin also looked like a bitch for pressing that reporter with 4 state troopers. That's not getting talked about enough. All-time bitch move from Lane Kiffin. Jawan Jennings also gets called a hoe by Shelby Harris, Brown's defensive tackle. Quote, "I see why he got punched in the nuts. He's a hoe." I mean, how can you not love football? Jawan Jennings does seem like an absolute schmuck, by the way. 28-year-old wide receiver who's never eclipsed 1,000 yards, has eclipsed 900 yards just once, but is not constantly, but every time I hear about Jawan Jennings off the field, it's like, yeah, I want to get traded or I want a contract extension. You haven't done a fucking thing in this league, Jawan Jennings. You're more of a product of the Shanahan scheme and Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel being divas than your own real skill level and talent. Obviously, you're in the NFL, you're probably pretty good, but in comparison to wide receivers that should or that have a right to be holding out or requesting a trade, you are not one of them. You are not one of them. 28 years old, never eclipsed 1,000 yards. Abdul Carter, I just want to be the first to say, if you guys haven't heard it already, he was not watching porn. That was not why he was punished for the first drive. If you saw that tweet going around, I want to be the first to tell you guys, I want to be an honest journalist. Abdul Carter was, in fact, not watching porn. And screenshotting that tweet and sending it to various group chats and being like, look at this guy, especially when you're in group chats with a bunch of Giants fans, to get a rouse out of them and spread false information. That is behavior we look down upon, we frown upon in Fire Sports takes, especially when you have idiot Albanian friends like Gavin Ducey who will believe that. We don't want to. We don't promote that type of behavior. So I want to be the first to say, if you haven't heard already, Abdul Carter was in fact not watching porn in a team meeting, and that is why, and that is not the reason why he missed the first drive of the game. Per Connor Hughes, he's been late to team meetings. It's been a trend for Abdul Carter, a guy who I thought was going to come in and tear the league by storm, having an underwhelming rookie season. His presence has been felt per Giants fans, as my sources, but the numbers, the stats aren't really totally there. So I just want to say, Abdul Carter, not watching porn. Lane Kiffin, a hoe. Jawan Jennings, also a hoe. Yeah, and let's get into the hot take segment of today's episode. 20 minutes in, I don't know if we're going to hit the 30-minute mark. We will see. First hot take for Hot Take Tuesday. The Texans are the best team in the AFC. They have the best defense in football, and they have the best defense since the Legion of Boom, ladies and gentlemen. And I don't say that lightly. I don't say that lightly. Number one total defense, number one scoring defense, number one turnover percentage. They're number one, or excuse me, I messed it up. I got to restart for the clip. We clip farm over here. Got to restart for the clip. Give Maggie, shout out intern Maggie, W intern Maggie. Got to give her a crisp place to start the edit. I think the Texans are the best team in the AFC. I do. They have the best defense in the league, and I don't think it's particularly close. Number one total defense, number one scoring defense, number one in percentage of drives that end in a score for the opposition, number two in third down percentage, fourth in turnover percentage, eighth in sacks. The Texans defense allows 265 yards per game. The Legion of Boom allowed 267 yards per game. The Texans defense allows 16.5 points per game. The Legion of Boom allowed 15.9 points per game. The Texans defense is allowing less yards per game than the 2014 Seahawks and half a point more per game than the 2014 Seahawks. The Texans defense is as good as the Legion of Boom. And when you look at the top six teams in the AFC in terms of winning percentage, Patriots, Broncos, Jags, Chargers, Colts, CJ Stroud has more playoff success than any of those quarterbacks. Any of those quarterbacks combined, really, it's at least the same amount because Daniel Jones and Trevor Lawrence both have one playoff win. CJ Stroud has two playoff wins in 2 years. So all of those quarterbacks combined have the same amount of success in the playoffs as CJ Stroud. So the Texans not only have the best defense in the conference, but out of the six teams with the highest winning percentage in the conference, the Texans have the quarterback with the most experience in the playoffs. And their offensive line is not the garbage offensive line that it was through the first 5-6 weeks of the season. It's been playing a whole lot better, still not good, obviously. CJ Stroud also looked incredible after he threw the interception to Cam Bynum. I think this Texans offense is getting better in goal-to-go situations. Still not great. That's really been their Achilles heel, but I think they have the best defense. They have the quarterback with the most playoff experience besides Josh Allen, which if he makes it, you can't count out the Bills because of Josh Allen's ability to rise in the playoffs. Why not the Texans' best team in the AFC? I hope I didn't butcher the Seattle Seahawks portion of that, because I think that is a real spot there to deliver a blow to the TikTok audience. Yeah, Texas defense as good as the Legion of Booms. That is crazy, though, to think about. How good was that LOB defense? Like I said, the Texans defense allowing 265 yards per game. The Legion of Boom in 2014 allowed 267 yards per game. The Texans defense is allowing 16.5 points per game. The Legion of Boom in 2014 allowed 15.9 points per game. Texans defense is as good as the Legion of Boom. You look at the top six teams in the AFC in terms of winning percentage, CJ Stroud has just as much playoff success as all of those teams' quarterbacks combined. Patriots, Broncos, Jaguars, Chargers, Colts. 2 playoff wins amongst those starting quarterbacks. CJ Stroud has 2 playoff wins in his first 2 seasons, and he looked good in the playoffs too, minus that Ravens game his rookie season. The Texans have lost to the Broncos by 2 points without CJ Stroud. Where he got hurt halfway through the game. The only other loss in the AFC came to the Jaguars in week 3. They have won 7 out of their last 9, including wins over the 9-4 Niners, the 8-4 Bills, the 8-4 Colts in Indy. The Texans aren't playing on a 4th place schedule the way the Patriots are, or a 3rd place schedule the way the Broncos and the Jaguars are. The Texans are playing on a 1st place schedule and have played 10 teams that would be in the playoffs if the playoffs started today. 10 games against playoff teams if the playoffs started today. The Texans have one of the best quarterbacks in the conference, at least one of the best quarterbacks that has proven he can play in the playoffs, play successful winning football in the playoffs. They're the most battle-tested team in the conference, and they have the best defense in the conference. The Texans are the best team in the AFC. I think I put together a great case there. Those are facts. It's not like I'm saying this off of vibes or opinions. CJ Stroud has more playoff success, or at least the same amount of playoff success as the top 6 teams in the AFC in winning percentage combined. The quarterbacks for those teams combined. Best defense in the league, comparable numbers to the Legion of Boom, have had the toughest schedule in the AFC so far, playing 10 teams that if the season ended today, they played 10 games against teams that would be in the playoffs. That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. Give me Houston. I'm high on this Texans team, and I'm a CJ Stroud guy, so obviously there's a little bias there. But those were just facts. Those were not. It was objective fact. Today, this is an episode of facts. This is fact-based episode up until now, because we're going to talk about why I think Texas should be in the college football playoff. Listen, this is not going to be a popular college football take, but I think Texas is easily a top 12 team in the country. They belong in the college football playoff. I'm not a college football truther where I think if they have 3 losses, they don't deserve to be in the playoffs. They're better than every team in the ACC. Dare I say they're better than every team in the Big 12 besides Texas Tech, and they're better than every team in the Big 10 besides Oregon, Indiana, Ohio State, but they lost to Ohio State by just 1 possession. They played Ohio State better than any team played Ohio State all season long. I think Texas, right now at this very moment, is a top 12 team in college football. I'm not a resume guy. I'm an eye test guy. But let's say we are a resume guy. There's not a team in the country, or at least a bubble team in the country, that has as many good wins as Texas does. Best win out of any team on the bubble, beating the undefeated Texas A&M Aggies. They beat 2 teams that at the time that they played them were ranked in the top 5. They beat 3 teams that at the time that they played them were ranked in the top 10. They beat Oklahoma in the Red River Rivalry. They beat Diego Pavia and Vanderbilt, who does not belong in the college football playoffs. Now talk about a team that hasn't beat anybody. And they lost a 1-possession game to the best team in the country and one of the best college football teams we've seen in a very long time. They are allowing less than 10 points per game and allowing barely 200 yards per game, that Ohio State team. The ACC does not deserve a representative in the college football playoffs. And I understand the Texas loss to Florida was bad, but Miami has losses to Louisville and SMU. Those are worse. Notre Dame has also beaten nobody. Their best win is USC. USC gets smoked by Vandy, Oklahoma, or A&M. Those are 3 teams that Texas beat. So I don't know how you can look at this college football playoff right now and think that Texas isn't a top 12 team in the country. Listen, I understand you got to put an ACC team in. I don't think you need to do that. These are the top 12 teams. Ohio State, Georgia, Indiana, A&M, Texas Tech, Oregon, Ole Miss, Oklahoma, Alabama, Texas, Notre Dame, and then you got to throw a G5 school in there. I know, like, it's kind of contradictory being like, hey, ACC doesn't deserve to be in, but we got to throw a G5 team in. I think it's just fun that the G5 teams do have, like, they are playing for that one spot and a chance to play for a national title, even though it's a long shot. I think that needs to stay in the game, but you don't need to be giving automatic bids to these P4 conferences when they're as garbage as the ACC is. And frankly, as a Mountaineers fan, as a Big 12 guy, outside of Texas Tech, no other team in the Big 12 deserves to be in the show either. Unless BYU beats Texas Tech, then you can throw both of them in. But Texas is easily a top 12 team in the country, and Notre Dame is a better football team today than the University of Miami. They have a better win. I think USC is a better win than any win Miami has all season long, obviously, besides Notre Dame. Notre Dame also has 2 losses against a 1-loss Texas A&M team that came in on a 4th down where it was egregious misholding. So I wouldn't be mad if Miami gets in over Notre Dame. But like I said, fuck a resume. I'm an eye test guy. Notre Dame's a better football team than Miami at this current moment. Miami lost to Louisville and SMU. If you play an ACC schedule and you have 2 losses, you do not belong in the college football playoff, respectfully. Even 1 loss, if it's to an ACC team, you don't belong in the college football playoff. It's just unbelievable. And listen, I was the same way last year. I thought Bama was absolutely a better football team than SMU. Like, there was no business SMU made it. I'm pretty sure conference championship game, whatever. Fuck the auto bid for a P4 conference, especially because the ACC is an absolute joke. The Pitt Panthers lost to a 4-win West Virginia team that finished, 10th in the Big 12? And Pitt's a top team in the ACC. It's just an absolute joke. They don't deserve a team in there. So, yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Hit that follow button. I just say that. I feel like I don't say that a lot, but hit the follow button on Spotify so you get notifs when I drop new episodes. But this episode was brought to you by Head to Spread. If you think you are better at picking spread than, excuse me, sorry for the ear grape burp there. That's on me. If you think you are better at picking spreads than your buddies, download Head to Spread and find out. The fantasy season's wrapping up. If you missed the playoffs, but you still want to compete with your friends and see who knows more ball, download Head to Spread, create a league, go head to head, picking spreads every single week. And fantasy season's almost over anyway. Playoffs are starting. You're going to be out. If you're not out and you're in the fantasy championship, that's still cool. But even going into the playoffs, the NFL actual playoffs, if you still want a chance to compete with your friends, download Head to Spread. They also have a Spread Sense AI feature to help you with any questions you might have pertaining to a specific matchup on any given Sunday, from player injuries to offensive versus defensive matchups, or if you're hunting different systems. The Spread Sense AI feature is a very useful tool. So download Head to Spread, use code DEVIN, DEVIN, all caps, and you will get the Spread Sense AI feature fully free for the rest of the season to help get all the info for every NFL matchup every single week. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I love you all. W podcast today. I was a W podcast today. I'm very happy. I'm very pleased with the product we put on the field today. I'm very happy. I'm very proud of the boys. I'm very proud of my preparation in this podcast, and I think I gave some very good hot takes with some very good evidence and some very good points to back up those hot takes as well. So this is one of the better hot take episodes I've made in a long, long time. As far as the college football thing goes, obviously I'm not the biggest college football guy. I like the NFL more, and I just have more history with the NFL. But I don't know how, fuck a resume, bro. Fuck all that talk. Fuck all that jargon, all that college football jargon. Who has better wins? Who has better losses? I watched the game with my eyes. Texas is a top 12 team in the country. I rest my case. But 1G5, it's really the top 11 teams should get in, because I do think you need to have that 1G5 team. I really think you do. And I would do the North Texas simply because their quarterback is gross, per my buddy Jacob in the chat. When I go live, he said, watch North Texas's QB's tape. That's on the to-do list. Apparently, he's gross. And Jacob, if you are in the live streams and you know Jacob, that guy knows ball. Jacob's a certified ball knower. If he says he's gross and I need to watch the tape, I'm going to believe that he's gross, but I'm also going to go watch the tape. So get North Texas's QB in there so we can get a good eval on him against some top tier competition. So yes, all of this college football playoff talk also doesn't matter because Ohio State's going to win back to back. So that's really it. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. Hit the follow button. I'll catch you guys in the next episode of the Fire Sports Takes podcast.